Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Elizabeth and today's video is going to be a story time. One of my most popular videos on this channel is a Tinder date story time I had about the worst Tinder date I had ever been on. I will have that link below if you're curious about watching it, but this is actually another horror story date that I went on. I think it was probably like 2 weeks after that one, so it was probably almost 3 years ago now. But he followed me home, and it's interesting. So someone was asking me about the worst dates I had ever been on the other day, and this one just came to mind, and I was like, why haven't I told my YouTube family about it? They loved the first horror story that I had. Why wouldn't they love this one? So I had been talking to this guy. We won't say his name, but he knew one of my friends. I guess they went to elementary school together, and I had told her about him, and she was like, oh my gosh, he used to be so weird. I don't recommend talking to him or dating to him at all. There was just something about him that was really off. And I was like, okay, whatever. That was elementary school, whatever. I just kept talking to him. I had never met him, but it was just texting back and forth, super casual, whatever. And then one day he was like, do you want to go on a date tonight? And I was like, probably not. I was very weary about seeing people in person. Especially after the first date I went on. That just happened way too fast, and that was a disaster. And so when he asked to go on a date with me and hang out that night, I was like, probably not. And I was like, I'm working today, sorry, I just want to go home after I get off and, just kind of relax. And so I worked with my best friend, who was actually the friend that he had from elementary school, and I told her about it. And she was like, yeah, you probably shouldn't go, And I was like, okay, that's fine. And so I told him no. And then he was like, well, if you're working today, I'll be in the area that you work in. Why don't I just come and stop in, while you're working and say hi? Which, we worked in a department store, and so that wasn't super weird. We had people, come in all the time, our friends, and they would just, hang out and talk to us. So that would have been completely normal, but I was like, okay, this is really weird. But, my friend and I talked about it, and we were just, folding clothes and working together. And she was like, I mean, if he's going to come in, he's going to come in. He already knows where you work. And I was like, yeah, that's true. It's better for me to, meet him in a public place where I'm comfortable. I know, all of my managers, everyone who works here, if anything would happen, I'm in a safe place that I'm comfortable in. I have a lot of people on my side. And so I was like, yeah, sure, he can come in, for a few minutes, whatever. He came in, and as he's walking, up to the door, we can see him out the windows. And my friend looks at me, and she was like, oh, no, this is not going to go well. And I was like, no, it'll be fine, She was like, bad memories are coming back from childhood. I know this is not going to be well. And I was like, it's fine. And so he comes in, and he stays for probably 45 minutes or an hour, and then he says that he has to go run errands and stuff. But he was like, yeah, when you hang out, maybe when you get off work, maybe we can hang out. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I just kind of blew him off, because I was like, once I get off, I'm going to go home. And so he left, and my friend's like, okay, he's not that bad anymore. He seemed pretty normal. He was able to hold up conversation. It wasn't anything super freaky or that would put you off. And so she was like, it's fine. And I was like, okay. And then we just kind of dropped it and didn't talk about it again. Well, I got off at 5 or 6 that night, and I went home and I had dinner. And he texted me, and he was like, hey, do you want to hang out later? And I was like, I mean, Kat gave me the okay, so it's probably fine. So I guess if you want to, what do you want to do? And he was like, I don't know, let's just drive around. And I was like, okay, I drive around all the time, whatever. And so I meet him again at my work, probably at 9 o'clock at night. And since everything's closed, it was a Sunday, everything was closed, we just decided to drive around. And I knew the area better, so he got in my car, and we drove around for a while, and we laughed and talked and listened to music, and it was actually really fun. Totally normal, nothing was going off in my mind, no alarms or anything. I was like, everything is fine, which it was. Until we got back to the parking lot. So it was about 2 in the morning when we got back to his car, and I was like, yeah, it was fun, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, yeah, we'll have to do it again. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And so he gets out of my car and gets into his car, and I was driving the whole time that we were hanging out, so I wasn't on my phone or anything, because I don't text and drive, I don't distracted driving, no, I don't do any of that. So he gets out of my car, closes the door, my car automatically locks, and I'm sitting on my phone catching up, telling Kat that yes, I hung out with him, yes, it was fine, going through my social media, just getting my updates, before I go home. So I'm probably sitting there for 10 minutes, because I'm distracted, I'm just on my phone, because I haven't had it for the past couple of hours. And 10 minutes later, I look up, and he's still sitting there in his car. Like, not on his phone or anything. He's in this big truck, and he has the window rolled down. He has his arm, like, leaning out of it, and he's just, like, looking at me. And I was like, okay, this is really, really weird. And I was like, maybe he's just, you know, waiting for me to go first, make sure, like, I'm okay, whatever. And so I turn my car, like, into drive, and I go pull out of the parking lot, and immediately he's, like, right behind me. And I was like, okay, this is weird. And I pull out of the parking lot, and, you know, I get stopped at the light, and I wait there, and he's in the lane right behind me, even though it's 2 in the morning, no one's out there. He could have been next to me in the other lane, like, you know, they were both going straight. And I was like, okay, this is really weird. And so for the first turn that I could have made to go back to my house, I was like, let's just go straight, because I know, like, there are more options. Like, there was just something in me that was like, this is really, really weird. And so I go straight, and he follows me. And I get to the next one, and it's like a big intersection where you can turn left to go on the highway, or you can go straight to go back to my house. And either way, like, at that intersection, either way, it would be, like, equal distance to my house. It was just one past the highway immediately, and one went, like, a longer way around. And so I usually go straight. And I was in the straight lane, and I see that he's still, like, really close behind me. And I was like, that's weird. So at the last moment, I just, like, turn. You know, there's no one in the road. And he was in my lane, too, and he literally turns. And I was like, okay. He had asked me at one point, he was like, where do you live? Like, how do you get home? And I was, like, very generic about it, because, like, that's a question, like, small town, everyone asks each other. But he was not from our town. He was from, you know, across the, like, 45 minutes away, I would say. And I was like, that's just super weird. Like, maybe he's just going this way, like, last minute. He was lost. Maybe he's just going to turn on the highway. And we drive past the highway, and he doesn't turn. And I'm like, okay. You know, stuff's going on in my heart. I'm like, oh no, oh no, oh no, I don't know what's going to happen. And so I call Kat, and I'm on the phone with her. You know, she's always up at, like, every hour in the night. And I was like, girl, he is following me home right now. Like, I know you said, like, you told me it was going to be okay and that he wasn't as weird as he used to be. And she was like, he came from, like, a really messed up background. Like, a lot of things that he used to do as a kid with, like, you know, they just make you feel really off. Like, I thought he outgrew it, but maybe he didn't. Like, maybe this is something, like, I don't know. And so she's on the phone with me. And I get to this 4-way stop. And if I go left, I go back to the store I worked at in the parking lot. I dropped him back off. And if I go right, I go back to my house. And so I have my turn signal on to go right, and he turns his on. And I'm like, oh, no. And so I have it on to go right, and I turn left. And there's a high school right there. And I pull into the parking lot, and there's other cars in there. And I turn my car off, turn all the lights off. He goes right, and he, like, I was like, okay, I lost him, and I hit all the lights in my car off, and I'm on the phone. I'm like, okay, maybe I lost him, maybe I lost him. He turns around in a parking lot down the street, comes back, turns back into the parking lot that I'm, like, hiding in, pulls right up to my car on the window, and rolls his window down, and he's like, why aren't you going home? And I was like freaking out in my mind, and I'm, like, trying to stay cool and calm, and I looked at him, and I was like, I'm just on the phone with Kat, like, we're just talking. And he was like, oh, well, I can wait until you're ready to go home. And I was like, please don't, like, I don't want you to, like, this is really weird. I was like, go home, like, I am fine, I promise you. If anything happens, like, I'm on the phone with Kat. And he was like, okay, if you're sure. And he, like, lingers, like, longer than he needs to, and then he turns his car back on and, like, pulls out. And so I sit there for another 20 minutes because I'm like, this is not okay. Like, I don't even know what to do. Finally, Kat convinces me, like, it's okay. Like, I can go home. So I get, like, my car back started and all the lights on, and I drive down the street to my house. It only takes me, like, 5 or so minutes to get home. But I pull in my driveway, and I turn my lights out, and I'm still on the phone with her. And, you know, now it's probably, like, 3 in the morning. No one is out on the roads. And I see, like, I don't know how to describe my house, but, like, it's, like, kind of a main road, but not really, and then it's just, like, my driveway and my house, so, like, you can only probably fit 3 cars in my driveway. It's really short. And so I'm sitting in my car with all the lights off, ready to go inside, and I see his truck come down my road super slowly, like he's looking for me to go back to check to make sure, like, I left the parking lot that I was sitting in before. I was like, are you serious? Like, that was the craziest thing ever. Like, why do you follow someone home? He didn't stop. He didn't know that it was, like, my house because it was super dark and my car was at the front of the driveway and everything. But I was, like, freaking out. I was like, I can't believe that. And so he texted me the next morning and said, like, he had a great time and everything, and I blew him off. I blew him off for like a week and a half straight, and he kept texting me and calling me, and he was like, I don't understand, like, what went wrong. I thought we had a great time, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, honestly, dude, it's weird that you followed me home. He's like, well, you know, in my family, I was raised to, like, treat women right and make sure they're safe and protected, and, you know, following you home would make sure that you get home safely. I'm like, I'm a freaking grown adult. I don't need you to follow me home. Like, no one follows me home every day. If I had a problem, like, I would, like, figure it out. I do not need you. I just met you today. You do not need to follow me home. He was like, well, I'm so sorry, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, no. We don't do that. We don't do, no. And so, blocked his number, blocked him on Facebook, Instagram, all that fun stuff, and never talked to him again. But that was weird. A lot of people will ask, why didn't you just go to the police station, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, if it would have gotten to that point, I would have gone to the police station. If, when I was at the four-way stop, if he would have turned left with me also, I would have gone to the police station because it was in that direction, but I pulled into the parking lot because he turned right, and I thought it would have been fine. But yes, it was really weird. You should never have to experience that because it's crazy. It freaks you out, and I don't understand what is wrong with some people. Lots of guys you meet on Tinder are probably great, but some of them need to give you some space and take some steps back, and yeah. But that is that story. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave me a comment below if you have ever had a crazy horror date story. I know it's been a couple years since I posted my first one, so if you have any updated ones, please let me know. I would love to hear about them. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Comment down below and subscribe to my channel to check out some of my other videos. Thanks, guys. Bye.